He is from Team Millennium, and he is in the pink trunks up to the northeast of this map. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to bring you Millennium Stephano. Versus his opponents right here on Daybreak. From Team Mouse Sports, hailing of course from Poland. You may notice the CC in the middle of his name. That's actually a new sponsor, and I'll be damned if I remember the name of it. I'm sure we'll find out momentarily. He is in the green trunks, and he is playing Protoss to the southwest of the Daybreak. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for MaNa.
And a lot of people have been theory crafting, everybody has, how to beat Stephano, because Stephano now widely accepted as one of the best foreigners, if not the best foreigner within StarCraft 2. And when I say foreigner, I mean outside of Korea, as Korea is pretty damn good at the game. But I really don't believe that you can successfully pull off an aggressive style, such as a gateway timing or anything along those lines against Stephano. He seems untouchable. His scouting, his Ling scouting, not just his overlord, but his Ling scouting, he reads the game well and knows exactly how many drones is viable, how many is too much. So if MaNa wants to take the game later, then he has to try that. He really has to. And the problem is, as MaNa was saying at dinner last night, is like, I know I can't really rush him, but if I take the game later, I have to play against Broodlords and Infestors. It's so difficult. I don't know how to beat him. And we're going to have to see what MaNa has planned for this series, and he has to have something. First place Total Biscuit is so valuable in a tournament this size.
Damn right it is. It's incredibly important to get the best seed you possibly can. In fact, in the previous tournament, where unfortunately the seeds ended up being kind of known beforehand, they knew who they were going to face. Yeah. We had Bratok and Stephano, as it turns out, fighting to lose to make sure that neither of them went up against Sen, who at the time was one of the most feared players in that tournament. Funnily enough, Stephano then beat him in his ZvZ, but hey, there you go.
Yeah, and none of these players do know which group plays which, first or second, yep. Plays Group C, first and second. It will be randomly determined. So you basically just have to finish first place, and you'll play somebody who finished second place. So the first place finishes so far, we've got Puma and potentially a lot of other fantastic players as well that will qualify as first. So very important to do that. So far, 16 Forge into Nexus, Gateway, then the cannon here. Completely standard so far by MaNa. Let's have a look what MaNa scouted. He saw the spawning pool, he saw the hatchery, and Stephano knowing that against Forge Fast Expand, you can't play 2 base versus 2 base unless you go aggressive, and does opt to take that 4-minute 30 third base.
Yep, there comes Stephano's Overlord, just passing over the cannon. Take a little bit of damage, it won't be too big a deal. He can nestle it nicely near the back of that base to go in a little bit later and sacrifice itself if he so desires. Double Assimilator now completely functional for MaNa, starting to mine gas rapidly as he can from both. And there's the third from Stephano, knowing, of course, the standard axiom, I suppose, against Forge Fast Expand is Forge Fast Expand lets me drone for about 8 minutes.
Absolutely. Depending on what you scout, of course, if, for example, he sees a pylon early, then he's going to want to do something, because the 8-minute mark or whatever is a standard big gateway timing, but Void Ray +1, anything along those lines does come a lot earlier. And yep. MaNa does escape with a probe, well, not really escape from his own base, does leave on his own kind of ground. I guess he doesn't really escape unless the probes are slaves, but does manage to go down to the third base and seize it, which is the goal of that probe, so that's achieved. And MaNa doesn't really care now if that lives or dies.
No, he does not, because it's cruel Taskmaster. There's no doubt about that. Probes could potentially be slaves. They don't seem to have a mind of their own. They're always sent to these most dangerous and/or boring missions. But as it turns out, it seems that MaNa is finding another use for his slave as of yet, and is able to rescue it from that single marauding Zergling. +1 is coming in right here. This is nice, and we see this quite a lot in Forge Fast Expand because it gives you a little bit of an opportunity to harass, and it also forces your opponent not to just build a few Lings, because you're going to be slicing through Lings at a rate of 2 swings is what it takes to kill a single Ling with +1.
And look at this Overlord position by Stephano. That is actually untouchable there. That Overlord sees the gas, can easily see both the gases, so fantastic Overlord placement there. And we do see the third gas going down, and a robotics facility rather early here. There's a lot of options that can come from this. He can go for Warp Prism straight away, he can harass with it. He can tech up to Colossus and try to crawl towards a third base, defending with it. So we'll see what he does decide with that, but there's no probes anywhere on the map. and Stephano has an amazing scout of the map. So there's actually no option, even with +1 finishing, for MaNa to be aggressive. No options whatsoever, completely covered, and Stephano now pushes that advantage through, is even droning past that point of where you have to stop around 50 to start to get ready for defense, but he's still droning, man. He knows aggression's not coming.
Yeah, it can't. And we've got roach speed on the way up there as well, and there is that warp prism. Good idea. Probably the best choice I could imagine at this stage, just to get in there and start to try doing a little bit of damage. The risk is, of course, it can get cleaned up very quickly by speed roaches on the defensive.
Yeah, and we do have now the Warp Prism coming out with 4 sentries. He will be able to lock down some drones inside mineral lines, potentially. So we'll see how effective this is, because with a Warp Prism, you have to kind of play darts a little bit and hope the hell you don't run past an Overlord, because he's going to do that,
like right about now, exactly.
And that's unlucky for him, and it is a bit of a gamble. But Stephano sees it, and MaNa's like, ah, crap, well, guess I best get rid of the Overlord, and then try to come in from a different angle maybe. But his strategy, his plan has been revealed to Stephano. And then the backup plan looks like the Colossus, the robotics bay, has been thrown down. Colossus will be coming out shortly. And we also have that +1 armor. He can expand from here, or he could be aggressive from here, but most likely the more defensive route, as we talked about the reasons before.
Very true. There's the macro hatch going down for Stephano. Everything looking pretty much hunky-dory for him. 66 drones. Plenty of spare lava available as well to pump out plenty of roaches. Roaches are, of course, a big drain on supply, but as long as you've got a lot of lava stacked up and plenty of overlords, you don't have a problem. He's got a big window as well. Look at that, 13 more roaches being added on. Straight up roach crush against a player that doesn't have a lot of immortals is absolutely fine. It works incredibly effectively against Protoss.
And here comes the Warp Prism. There are roaches deployed in anticipation for it. He did scout it earlier, so it shouldn't be too hard to ward this off at all. I mean, he is also getting the Chromatic Drive ready for the Warp Prism so he can run around a lot easier, but he's not really going to be able to penetrate in the areas. We saw how good Stephano was against defending against the drops in that third game against Happy just now, and it looks like he's going to go in. No angles really available.
Yeah, Stephano's keeping a nice eye on things, making sure that it's entirely locked down. And that Warp Prism just has to leave at this point. And what's scary is the roach count. It's about to be at 43. And MaNa's army is nowhere near that size. Look at it, 41 to 107. A little deceptive, considering the supply drain of roaches, but still, that's a huge army. Yeah. And he could just go right in and start to do damage. Yeah,
it's really good. And against his style, he does want to get a couple of Immortals out first, as said. You know, Immortals and Force Field is the combination in the metagame right now. As long as you nail the Force Fields down well, you could do okay. But look at the amount of units Stephano has. This is going to be so hard for MaNa to move out, even though I don't think Stephano can just launch himself at this base because there's a lot of force fields available, but he's going to make it almost impossible for MaNa to push out.
Yeah, and that means he can just expand wherever the hell he pleases. And if he can take that forge out, that'll be great. Cancel the +2. One more shot would do it. The force fields have been deployed to try and prevent it, but it's going to go down anyway. And Stephano barely takes any losses in the process, so even that's a gain. Takes the Cybernetics core out. Then no Stalkers, and Cybercore is going to go down as well. So going to be relying, of course, on Zealots, Immortal, and Colossus there. One Colossus is now out on the field. No extended thermal lance, one assumes, as of yet.
And while that was going on, 4 sentries did get deployed in the main base and did nothing. The Roaches cleaned it up. The Warp Prism there is being completely useless in this game. 200 supply versus 130 without doing anything. Stephano just seems ahead of the curve. He's got the Spire down, the Hydrogen down, anything that MaNa can do, Stephano's going to have it covered in just a couple minutes time, and he's going to try and Chrono Boost out this second Colossus and try to move out, but he has to do something. He has to establish a third base. He's at 65 probes and has a horrible ratio for saturation.
Yeah, but there we go. A quick pickup, unfortunately losing one in the process, and just doing no damage with it. This defense seems impenetrable, even though you've got this massive contain by Stephano. How do you break out of this? You've got to start sniping away at that with Colossus and use the Immortals as well, but I think it's just enough Roaches to try and crush through. We're about to find out if it will really be enough. The Immortal shields are now down, though, and the force fields were well placed. So MaNa absorbs that attack quite nicely.
Yeah, and after this, I think that MaNa should look to expand now. He did a lot of damage, he killed a lot of roaches, and there is the little push down, and he picks up the majority of the Zealots there, and he picks off the 4th base, so that is the first win here for Mouse Sports MaNa in this game.
Yeah, indeed, and we're going to see a Interesting choice of going Roach Hydralisk. I mean, the Colossus count isn't really all that high. The reason you don't usually go that against a lot of Colossus is Hydra dies so fast that they can't really get in range. Also, the creep spread isn't amazing either, so it's a curious decision. Hydras are known for being slow units, but I mean, they're not that slow. They're about average speed. They're just not quite as quick as they need to be.
All right, so we do have 6 Corruptors in the making now. Stephano, just killing these rocks, does have +2 attack for the Roaches and +1 Carapace coming shortly. And it looks like now MaNa finally decided to move down, comfortable with the army he has, because Stephano is such an aggressive player that as soon as you throw that Nexus down on the base, Stephano's going for it, which I'm sure we'll see in this game as well, is to start to pressure it. And the Corruptor count is at 4, about to go all the way up to 8, but there's 3 Colossus, I think, and a 4th one coming. That's going to do a lot of damage before the Corruptors actually take them down, which is good for MaNa here, who at the end here is just trying to build up a 200 supply Deathball army. But will Stephano let him? Stephano, I'm sure, should be trying to pressure this man. He's at 200 supply, he's expanding all over the place, and if he sits back, MaNa's going to crawl back into this game.
Yeah, he's got 3,500 minerals banked up, so now would be the time to just start beating down the door here and use that army supply advantage, which he certainly does hold, 128 to 96 against his opponent here. It is still a little bit awkward going up against these 4 Colossus with extended thermal lance. We've got a warp in down here, a rather large one from MaNa down
He's going to try and pick off. He's got +2 attack. He's going to try and pick off the hatchery again, and this is going to be another humongous win. But at the same time, Stalker's caught in the middle, have to blink away, but he has force fields to defend while killing the base.
Yep, and the Colossus are there just to stop that from happening, so it's just not going to work. He does lose a Colossus right there, but he's still got 3 on the field. That base is toast, needless to say. And hey, if we can as well get a couple of free extractors, but Stephano's not going to let up. He's going to try and assault the 3rd here that MaNa's been able to sneak in.
He can't lose the 3rd. He cannot lose his 3rd Nexus. It's so important to keep this alive.
Well, let's see if he's able to do it. The DPS is not being focused on the Nexus. It's actually being focused on everything at the front, and there's no way Stephano's army's big enough to do this. Good blink underneath that as well. The Colossus goes down, but all the Corruptors are killed as well. The Immortals, that guy's got 15 kills. He is indeed a master. And there's the blink. Oh, the Nexus goes down. Oh, so very close to keeping that alive.
And the Zealots that did kill that 4th base, running towards the 3rd base, but Roaches are there to intercept. And if only MaNa could have kept that 3rd base alive, he could have continued at a strong pace in this game. But now it's going to be slowed down. His main is almost mined out, and so is his natural. In an ideal world, MaNa has to double expand now. He can't work off just 2 bases. He has to try to get 3. And in a few minutes, he's going to be working on 1 base alone because his main and natural are out.
Exactly, and yes, he does have this +3 that's on the way, and that will be helpful, but he must re-establish that base and mine from it immediately, get everything sorted out, and of course, in the meantime, Stephano's maxed again, needless to say, and is now pushing forward with a mixed force of Ling, Roach, and Hydra, which is about, well, it's not about to have +2 armor. These upgrades are actually quite behind, and that's perhaps his weakness here, but not a huge amount. And there we go, another engagement up against a much weakened force. There's nothing really at the front to stop this damage from coming in. Roaches go down, but the Hydralisks are left completely untouched, and he continues to push forward. That said, the Colossus don't die, because there's only a single Corruptor here, and the Corruptor's now been blown to pieces. Couple of cheeky little Roaches come around the side. MaNa's got to blink out of there, but he wants to keep that Colossus alive. Good micromanagement to the back, and he holds again an aggressive blink to go forward. Can he bring down the Hydras as well? It looks like he will be able to do it. Nice defense there by MaNa.
Yeah, really nice defense, but he's trading with a very rich Stephano.
Oh, yes, he is.
And Stephano's going to be able to rebuild. He's at 150 supply already. The thing is, though, that killing that 4th base over and over has really stunted the income of gas from Stephano. Therefore, he hasn't hit Hive yet. He's only just now doing it. He doesn't have that instant remax ability with Roach and Hydra. Sure, he can remax with Lings, but against this composition, he doesn't want to do that. And oh my god, is this Warp Prism actually going to get scouted? It's not, so it's going to go into the main and do more havoc. It could, with +3, even pick off the Hive.
Looking for it right now, and in fact it's not upgraded to Hive yet, so it doesn't actually have the extra HP that you would get from being there. It's going to try to snipe the infestation pit, but there are already Roaches prepared to try and prevent that from happening. This Warp Prism's also pretty badly damaged. Needs to watch out for that. We've got the Roach force at the top as well.
He's going to snipe the 3rd base. He's going to try and snipe the 3rd base. MaNa's out of position. He's on his natural.
Oh no.
The 3rd base.
No chance that he's going to be able to keep that alive. Surely a couple more shots and down it goes. So awkward there, and MaNa cannot be happy about that.
No, he was out of position, sitting on 3 cannons. That was just a pure mistake from MaNa there, and unfortunately loses that third base again. And now he's down at 115 supply, and his main and natural's basically mined out for all biscuit.
Yeah, and that main and natural is going to be absolutely slaughtered in a second. Stephano's gone all, nothing but roach at this point, knowing that he's got that economic advantage. It's great to reinforce there. Force fields placed down, they really aren't all that effective. Stephano streaming in from all sides, pulling his opponent apart and out of position. MaNa warps in additional units to try and reinforce. It is not quite enough at the moment to stop this march.
Yeah, Stephano, 17 more roaches in production. The Colossus right at the front, and these 2-2 roaches do so much damage. He manages to keep that Colossus alive, but the reinforcements are going to tip it over, man.
Yes, it is. Down it goes. The roaches just, they do it and then they just scuttle off thinking, I'm sorry, that's just how I think that they laugh. Stephano's going to lose a couple of roaches in the middle. Doesn't really matter. That warp prism is now making its way in here and might even get picked off. The Corruptor's focusing fire, and 2 more Corruptors, 4 in fact, come from the side. And this harassment has now finally been put to an end. And this looks like it may be the end for MaNa in this game. If Stephano keeps hammering on him with this much, he tries to re-establish that third base. Long distance mining occurs, a great convoy train.
Oh man, there's only a limited amount of force fields here, and as they go down, MaNa's gonna have to GG out of this game.
There you go, good game, ladies and gentlemen.